I'm going to show you guys today how to use a handy little measuring tool here called a protractor, and that is what we use to measure angles. A couple things that are going to be helpful for you guys to keep in mind is that when you've got an angle that makes a perfect box shape just like this, that is a right angle, which is 90 degrees. Hopefully remember that from the past. And that the corner of our angle right here is called the vertex of the angle. Another thing that we hopefully remember is that when you have a straight line, and this little circle right here tells us that this is kind of where the angle opened up and went around, a straight line like this is 180 degrees. I'm going to show you how to line up the protractor using two very familiar angles. So first of all, you need to make sure that the vertex of the angle, so the corner, is right here in the middle of this circle that is right here on my protractor, just like so. And the other thing we need to make sure that we do, because I just said this is a 90-degree angle, but you'll notice that the angle doesn't really go up here to the 90. That's because this line on the protractor right here needs to be lined up perfectly with the bottom of the angle. Just like so. So two things to keep in mind. The corner of the angle needs to go right there in the little cutout hole, and then the line that is on the protractor needs to be perfectly lined up with the bottom of the angle. Since the angle is opening in this direction, it's going up like this. That is why I'm going to read the numbers on the protractor that go from smallest to biggest. It's kind of like it opens up like that, and I see that I have a 90-degree angle. Down here at my straight angle, I'm going to assume I'm just going to put the vertex of the angle right there, which means I'm going to line up my protractor. The middle of the circle needs to go right there on the vertex. Notice that I lined up my line of my protractor right here perfectly with the bottom of my angle, and you can see that the angle goes right here to the 180-degree mark. It's like it opened up and bam, opened up to 180 degrees. Of course, they're not all going to be just like that. This is the practice sheet that you guys are going to be using today in class that I am going to be working with you. Now, the first thing that these people that make these answer sheet or these worksheets, something that they do that's kind of a pain is if I were to do what you asked, what I just told you to do a second ago, which I want to figure out how much this angle is going to measure. So I need to measure this angle right here. So I'm going to take my protractor, I'm going to line it up so that the vertex or the corner of the angle is right there in the middle of the circle. I'm also lining it up so that the line right here on the protractor matches up with the line on the bottom of my angle. Now, it's kind of hard to see if I were to take my angle straight up here, go up. It's kind of hard to see exactly which number it lines up at because the angle is too short. So one thing that I like to do when I'm measuring angles is I'm going to take the bottom of the protractor, and it's okay if we make the worksheet a little messy, and I'm going to use the bottom of the protractor as a ruler, and I actually make the top part of my angle a longer line so that now once I get the protractor lined up right, see how it's going to be a lot easier to read what the protractor is. So I'm going to take my protractor, I'm going to line it up so that the corner of the angle is lined up right there in the middle of my circle. Then I'm going to rotate around so that this line of my protractor is perfectly lined up with the bottom. I'm going to look here at my angle measurement. So the protractor is hitting right here. Now, some people get this confused because if I look at it on this side, see how this side is going up 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So it's 70, 71. It could be 72 degrees. Or if I look at this set of numbers that are going in this direction, it could be between the 100 and the 110, which would make it 101, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 108 degrees. So which one is it? Which number do I use? Do I use the number that's on the bottom or do I use the number that's on the top? Well, So this angle is either 72 degrees or it's 108 degrees. Remember that a perfectly right angle is 90 degrees. So anything that goes out farther than that would be bigger than 90. Well, clearly, this angle, whoops, wrong one. Clearly, this angle is smaller than a right angle because a right angle would be open just a little bit more. So that means that this angle has to be 72 degrees because it's got to be smaller than a right angle, which is 90 degrees. So when I line it up, it lines up right here at the 71, 72 degrees. So it's 72 degrees, not 108. If it were 108, it would be bigger than 90 degrees. It would go out farther. What I'd like you to do is pause the video in just 1 second, and I want you to try to measure, actually don't do number 2. Instead, I want you to measure number 6. But I'm going to show you a little pointer first, because this is what there are several different ways that you could set up the protractor to measure number 6. So I want to give you some options before you actually do it. If you turn it this way, you could line up the ruler like so. Make sure that the corner of your angle, oh, first of all, of course, I forgot to make one step, whoops, which I'm going to make this longer so it's easier to read. So I just lined up my protractor to use it as a ruler, extended that line out like so. So I could line up, so the vertex or the corner of the angle needs to go right there in the middle of my circle cutout. And my line that is on my protractor needs to be perfectly lined up with the bottom of my angle. So I see that this angle, so it's either, so see how this side goes up 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and it's one tick mark past the 50. It could be 51 degrees, or I could look at it from this side, which goes up 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. It's between the 120 and the 130. So it could be 129 degrees. So you think about it for a second. Is this angle 51 degrees or is this angle 129 degrees? I'm hoping that you guys said that it's going to be 51 degrees because clearly this angle right here is smaller than a, remember, this is what a right angle looks like. Okay, so this angle is definitely smaller than a 90-degree angle. So it's got to be 51 degrees. So see the difference. Before, when the angle was opening up this way, when I measured it, I used the set of numbers that opens up, that gets bigger going in this direction. When the angle opened up going this way, then when I line it up, I look at the set of numbers that go in this direction. So it depends on which way the angle opens up, depending on which set of numbers that I use. So now I would like you guys to try measuring number 7. I want you, though, before you check it, I want you to pause the video. I want you to try to line up the protractor, do it yourself, and then restart the video once you are ready to check your answer to see whether or not you did it right. I'm assuming you did what I asked and that you have paused the video. I'm going to start off by extending my line so that it's going to be easier to read. As you can see, my worksheet's starting to get a little bit messy, but that's okay as long as I've got the right answer. So I'm going to turn my angle around this way. I'm going to line up my protractor so that, again, the vertex or corner of the angle is right there in the middle of my circle. And notice my line on my protractor isn't quite lined up with the bottom of my angle. So I need to rotate this around. Just like so, so that the line of the protractor lies directly on the line of the angle. And it's opening up. Now this angle, look, is clearly smaller than a 90-degree angle. Remember the word for that is a cute little angle. I'm sure you've heard that word before. So I'm going to use the set of numbers that gives me the smaller amount. So this is 50, 51, 52, 53, 50. Oh, oops, sorry. Got it a little bit off balance there. So 50, 51, 52, 53, 54 degrees is the measure of that angle. Go ahead and try number 8. Pause the video and then restart the video whenever you are ready. I'm assuming that you did what I asked and you paused the video and you're ready to go ahead and work it. I'm going to extend the length of my angle out to make it easier to measure with my protractor. Again, this angle, is it going to be smaller than 90 degrees this time? Okay, this would be a 90-degree angle right here where it makes a perfect rectangle. So this time the angle is actually going to be bigger than 90 degrees. I'm going to line it up so that I've got the vertex of my angle right in the middle. I've got the line of the protractor lined up at the bottom of my angle. Now this still isn't quite long enough, so I'm going to actually extend my line, make it a little longer. Let's try this again. Again, corner of my angle right there in the middle. Line up the line of my protractor right with it. So it looks like, so this is 100, and it's opening up, the angle is opening up in this direction, which means I'm going to read the numbers that go from left to right. And it looks like this is going to be about so 100, 1, 2, 3, about 105 degrees. Actually, you know what? When I was extending this line out, I kind of noticed how I kind of accidentally made this line go out a little bit farther than the original. I'll bet that's actually going to be, let me do a better job, because this is something that other people make common mistakes on too. Let me try making the line a little bit, because I'll bet it's actually going to end up being more like 104. Yep, it's really more like 104 degrees. So when you're extending your line out, be careful that you don't do like I did. Make sure you draw like a straight line that goes out, and make sure that you have it lined up correctly.